Welcome to Green Hills Shadow Chapter 23-Day Trip. It was decided to do another Mobian trip the next day after the fiasco that was the Echidna Temple. Well, that wasn't totally true. Sonic and Knuckles were going to the market, Tails was to take Shadow around the splendors of Green Hills, and a Mobius location aka Frog Forest. Whatever the case, keep him busy while they go get more rings and those gloves. Then once they finished what they were doing, they'd meet up in some way. Tails printed out the pictures he had taken of the ones at the temple. He was mostly interested in the moon being threatened in some way or form. Was this still to happen? It didn't make sense. Owls put their own temple on this planet, sure, to guard the Master Emerald. But why was something about Earth at an ancient temple the Echidnas had? Boggles the mind. A puzzle he so desperately wanted to solve. Tom and Maddie were not happy about the bruising on Sonic's shoulder when they saw it. He ended up being patched up by her, and the blue hedgehog groaned at her protectiveness. He told them they were in an ancient temple, and antics galore happened, but he's a lot steadier and they need to remember that. The Echidna grimaced at the way they stared at him, not at all enjoying the parental gaze. But he understood and explained the situation, that the hedgehog pressed an obvious trap. Sounded like Sonic though. Their parents could see that and understood too by the looks of it. They scolded the both of them and asked them to be more careful. At least neither was grounded currently, mostly because Knuckles whispered about the plans they had for Shadow. Get him out more, do more with him. Shadow on the other hand was helping the Echidna search the tomes and scrolls they managed to take, even if he couldn't read half of it. There were sketches in some of the books. And to his surprise, one of them indicated they were friendly with the owls at one stage in history. Knuckles' eyes were sharp when he saw that indication and was silent over it, so the ebony hedgehog didn't bring it up.
Have you found anything?
Shadow stared along the images and flipped the pages, trying to get to sink in, but wasn't getting anywhere due to the ancient language barrier. They might need to go back if they can't find any that they've taken.
No.
Knuckles sighed out and closed another tome.
Let me put this away. Rest a busy mind for a while. We can try again tomorrow night.
The Echidna lifted a tome and sat it on the side. So far he's found the history of the Echidnas, and the tribes they were allied with like the owls at one point. So what made them bitter enemies? Was it simply because the Master was created? The Echidna's purple eyes gazed at his bed, the Master floating over it in all its glory.
Why?
He thought.
We were once allies, according to this.
The Echidna rubbed his head and sighed out tiredly. No, don't get deep into it. The end goal is to find writings about the Seven, and the Master Emerald itself. Not dig up ancient pasts. He felt the emerald itself rhythmic hum in comfort. He chuckled softly and rubbed his chin in thought, something on his mind.
It was you, I know. That aided Shadow.
The Echidna sent his thought to the Master, and it brightened slightly in confirmation. But it's not supposed to interfere. The Seeker must always be the one to ask in its presence. It's not the other way around. At least, that's the way it's supposed to go. Could that be false? The Master Emerald dimmed in response, but Knuckles wasn't complaining. He appreciated the ebony hedgehog had help, had something to get him out of his predicament. But it's plagued his mind since he speculated. Was it that angry at what the humans were doing to him? It always refers to Shadow as child, but it also refers to them as children as well. It may be because of the chaos energy within them or being the children of Mobius. Child. He felt its intent from the mere mention. Felt angry like he thought. The emerald cannot speak, not properly, but it doesn't have a voice per se either. Its hums, rhythmic noise and energy is how it speaks. It acts like its voice, one only those with connection can understand. Knuckles noticed humans can't understand it. His parents can't feel the warmth it tries to extend. Sonic said he could swear he heard it, and so did Tails, so even they can understand it to a level of degree. But not to his or Shadow's level. They were more natural with it, it felt more natural to them, like a second nature. This is why he wants to see if there's any mention of its sentience in the temple books. Because he wants to understand it all the more. And protect it all the same.
How did you find him?
The Echidna asked the Great Gem, but it went silent and he frowned. It won't say to him? Felt. It felt him. Did Shadow subconsciously reach? But he wouldn't have known to do that. Broken. Broke through what exactly? The metal images flashed through the echidna's mind, and his eyes widened and sat straighter. That day over a month back. The images in his mind. A metal room, the rattling of chains. His eyes shot to the ebony hedgehog who was scrolling through the pages still, oblivious to the stare. He saw Shadow's prison, that metal room. The master connected to him to Shadow that day and sent the intent to the echidna. It wanted him to go find the hedgehog, but he never understood it at the time. Now he does, and he took a deep breath. If Carl hadn't found him, the master would have had the echidna go out that night in a final bid to get him, that much is certain. Is that why he felt unlike himself that night? Tails said he looked to be in pain. Was he in discomfort because he has been connected to Shadow during the meditation? Still, for the master to be involved, he pursed his lip. What did they do to him? What were they doing to him so much it broke the one rule the Emerald had supposedly in place? Not that the echidna cares, he's quite glad it got involved. Because it let him see the corrupt tribe. And for the good of other Mobians. They have to be taken down and be exposed. Hopefully Tails can find where they kept him, because the echidna will gladly tear that place down.
We will ensure that, won't we?
The echidna felt its energy surround like a warm blanket, and he sighed out from it. It felt comforting. He rolled his neck and gazed at the time. A Mobian market will be an adventure for him. Sonic has never been. He's always relied on the echidna. Nor has Shadow really, and Tails has had some experience as himself. He can try look for more outings after the newest adventure. But he doesn't want to overwhelm the Black Sapient.
You listening to the master again?
Sonic broke through his thoughts, and the echidna looked at him.
Think you could teach me?
That surprised the echidna. His eyes stared in disbelief, and Sonic put his hands up.
Oh yeah, look at me like that.
You normally aren't interested. I am just surprised.
Was he dreaming? Well, he brings up a fair point. The hedgehog sat next to his brother and sighed out.
I heard it that day when I went for a run. I've always felt it because I was connected once. But I don't think I ever understood it. But when Tails began to hear it, it's like I started to. Might be best if I can understand it in a familiar fashion like you guys.
He motioned to the gem that dimmed its light further, as if it's going silent for the night. The ebony hedgehog looked up at him from his position.
It's hard to explain.
The black hedgehog gazed at the Master Emerald as well.
It's more a feeling. That feeling of its intent, which allows one to hear its voice. But I thought you'd know since you've had it longer than I've known it.
You and Knuckles are just more natural at chaos energy, I guess.
Sonic shrugged.
So are you.
Shadow closed the tome.
You just don't realize it. You need to tap into it, I think. Train to feel it.
Sonic tilted his head and looked in thought. He also had natural chaos energy? That's interesting. Maybe they have a point that he needs to tap into it and train himself for it.
We can begin lessons then.
Knuckles patted his shoulder with eagerness.
You are one of its guardians, so naturally you must learn to understand it.
Sonic grinned some.
Did you find anything?
Shadow shook his head.
So far I don't think we grabbed the right stuff. Then again, I don't read Echidna, though I am trying. But we can always go back and get more. After all, we know what to do and not push any bricks.
I get it.
Sonic grumbled and Knuckles chuckled.
Already got a lecture earlier about it. Would you guys be okay with training?
Now that surprised Knuckles even further. He actually looked like he could shed a tear, and Sonic threw up his arms.
If that's the way you're gonna act.
No.
He quickly reached out and chuckled.
Of course, brother. Always good to see you put yourself forward. Knuckles? Why did the temple have advanced golems? Like technology speaking, they looked incredibly advanced.
Shadow looked at the red sapient, who hummed at that.
I cannot say, other than what you actually witnessed was ancient. The golems were embedded with chaos energy spheres. Not every temple has them. Only those with importance had them. So I was told. That was ancient?
Shadow's ears tilted forward. Felt quite advanced if he was being honest. Chaos energy spheres? The professor had something similar, a prototype design in a blueprint called Chaos Drives. He isn't sure if he ever made them or not.
It's rumored Sand Ruins has something similar.
Tails gathered his pictures.
Ancient places only ever had those. Something tells me Knuckles Island is one of great significance to Mobius. But that's speculation until we find more inside that library, I suppose. Chaos spheres are basically rare, though. That and a lot aren't powered anymore.
Fascinating stuff, Mobius. Shadow wants to go explore more of it each time he hears something about it.
For a bunch of ancients, they really packed a punch, cause wow.
Sonic shook his head.
Overkill if you ask me.
Tom and Maddie came up the attic stairs in that moment.
All right, boys, bedtime.
Maddie mentioned.
We have a long week of stuff to do.
Gifts for Shadow, maybe do something simple and fun, and then get ready for Sonic's party. Tom's already fallen out with Rachel, unfortunately. Sonic mentioned he wanted to talk to them about something about going in person than saying it over the phone.
Oh, Dad, tell Shadow a joke.
Sonic jumped into his bed and the ebony hedgehog's ears tilted over.
I don't want to hear the wall joke again.
Shadow dryly said, making Tom blink, and he laughed.
I do have some good puns, but you started with the wall.
The man looked to Sonic, who shrugged and grinned.
We were in a temple maze. I had to say something to pass the time.
It was awful.
Shadow sat on his mattress after tidying up the tomes, not at all impressed with that logic.
Why did the police arrest the turkey?
Tom gave Shadow a look, and the black sapient appeared to be confused, not at all sure how to take whatever Tom was saying.
They suspected foul play.
Sonic wheezed at the most bewildered look off the ebony hedgehog, and Maddie shook her head.
You now have been introduced to Tom's humor Blackberry.
She smiled at her husband. Shadow stared silently, and Tom chuckled at him.
I know a calendar one.
No.
Shadow cringed, causing both of them to laugh.
All right, bedtime.
Maddie repeated. Tom can make his dad jokes another time. Knuckles got up and made his way to his bed and lifted the Master Emerald into its safe box and closed the lid. Tails finished cleaning up his photos and writings. The routine of good night started again, with each of the humans hugging their kids and saying how much they love them and have a good night's dream. They all noticed Shadow didn't express it the same way as the others, probably still unsure about letting them fully in, or rather maybe he can't express it like he used to. So he patted Maddie's back when she hugged him, and she was just happy he allowed it. It meant a lot to her and Tom that despite how it could be hard for him, he still tries to let them. And that's all they could ask for. Shadow did not sleep well. He yawned, wanting a drink of coffee for some caffeine. He didn't have a bad nightmare exactly, but it wasn't a good dream either. He just can't remember it fully right now. He brushed his quills to look a bit more presentable.
So what am I to expect today?
Shadow looked himself over. He's not vain, but he really doesn't want to go back to how he looked before. He did his utmost to keep himself presentable. Might also be Sonic rubbing off on him about quill care. The blue hedgehog mentioned about teaching him how to be a hedgehog. He thinks he's doing fine in the regard. He doesn't need him saying otherwise. He tossed the brush down on his mattress. Tails looked into his bag.
Well, I think library or a cafe visit would be nice to do. Then maybe go to a location on Mobius.
The fox looked at him.
Sorry to say, Shadow, but we are done just doing stuff in the house.
His ears tilted at him in confusion. What was wrong with doing stuff in the house?
He means you need to get a life.
Sonic pointed out, earning a scowl.
I'm serious, dude. There's only so much we can do inside. So,
He clapped his hands together.
since it's the afternoon, let's go to a cafe, get a drink. I got my allowance.
The echidna ruffled his Mobian pouch that was filled with the currency, and the other was his dwindling rings. Today is to be as productive as possible. Shadow has a social battery, and he doesn't need it being drained quickly.
So what cafe are we going to?
Tails put on his backpack.
The one that Guy took over, or another one?
Yeah, not the Mean Bean, but that's mostly a coffee shop.
Sonic cringed, not at all wanting to go back to that, considering it used to be owned by Robotnik's assistant of all people, though how would Shadow react to it?
The Mean Bean?
Shadow asked.
I wouldn't mind some coffee.
Since when? Oh, never mind.
Sonic waved off his confusion.
A cafe has it just the same? The Mean Bean is just unfortunate memories.
Isn't that where the goat milker resided?
Knuckles closed his ring porch, and Shadow shot his head at the echidna with a questionable gaze.
What? I'm sorry, what is that sentence?
Shadow stared the echidna, taken aback. What does he mean by a goat milker? Sonic wheezed at the nickname Knuckles bestowed to that stone guy. Shadow looked lost.
He is a well-groomed man. He milks goats to make some type of latte beverage, I believe.
Knuckles rubbed his chin.
What did he call it again?
Shadow grimaced. Do coffee shops keep back goats to milk for their beverages? Now he feels less inclined to go on. Tails giggled away and Sonic snorted. Didn't make him feel better about it.
Ah, steamed Austrian goat milk lattes, that's it?
Stop.
He pinched his nose, wanting that image out of his mind.
Shut up, Sonic.
Nope, cause you're imagining it, aren't you?
I don't want to see them milk a goat.
Shadow muttered out and Sonic laughed even more.
Not when they're handing me my drink.
I really didn't need that image.
Tails shook his head.
Let's just get going so I don't have to think about it anymore.
Goat milker? What kind of profession is that?
Shadow exclaimed.
I don't need the image, Shadow.
Tails shot out. Regular cafe it is. They ended up going to a cafe that wasn't far from the old Mean Bean coffee place. The residents kept the name because it sounded catchy, but Sonic wasn't willing to go there just yet. Shadow liked the cozy look of the cafe. It reminded him of the diner, but not nearly as big. He sat at the window, enjoying the natural light that came into the cafe. It also had some plants on the walls to give it that extra bit of coziness, with hanging lights and amongst other things. The bricks inside were a beige color, mixed with dark wooden panels, and some of the color scheme matched it. Dark round tables, some were also square, and the seats matched the decor. The Ark was so vastly different, as was the facility. Metals and gray, it didn't have that feeling of life. But ever since he came here, he's experienced much more color and it felt more life. He gazed at the menu for drinks, not at all interested in trying any food at this current time. So many different coffee types, mocha, cappuccino, and amongst other things. He even saw that dreaded name, a latte, and decided against it. He's not having them milk a goat just to have it.
I think I'll stick with plain coffee.
Shadow motioned to that part of the menu.
Who are you pretending to be sophisticated to?
Sonic ignored his expression and looked at the counter.
It's kind of frowned upon that under 16s drink coffee.
It isn't illegal, though?
Tails looked at him.
Back on Mobius, there is a drink called Cassie. It's kind of like coffee. But they only give it to people about 13 and above.
I believe I shall stick with tea.
Knuckles hummed at the menu, quite interested in chamomile tea. It reminds him of the tea back on Mobius. The Mystic Ruins leaves used for it made it very smoothing.
I am getting the coffee. They can fight with me all they wish.
Shadow scowled some.
So go order it.
What, me? You go ask them!
Sonic hissed. Then he had an idea. He waved one of the people down to come on over. A woman maybe in her 20s headed on over. She had orange-colored hair with blue eyes, freckles on her nose and cheeks.
Don't you?
Shadow wants to ask you something.
The blue hedgehog ignored the glare and grinned cheekily at him.
Yes?
The woman tilted her head at the newest sapient that Green Hills seemed to have. She has never heard him speak from the time she's seen him wander in town. Shadow's ears tilted back with irritation, not at all wanting to talk. She stood there and waited for him to say something, but it didn't look like he was going to.
I would like a coffee.
He finally spoke with hesitation. His voice was quiet and strained, but he pushed past it. His arms were crossed tightly against his chest. Her eyes blinked and she gazed him over, trying to indicate his age.
He is 15.
Knuckles looked at the human.
His name day is upon us soon.
15 was a guess. He could be 16 for all the Echidna knows in himself. But he doesn't know his age, so why not have him sit between him and the blue hedgehog? It wasn't a lie.
Oh, like yours, Sonic?
She mentioned to the blue hedgehog, who rubbed his nose and grinned at her.
Well, there isn't any legal age restriction as far as I'm aware, but since he's an adolescent, then it should be fine if it's 1 cup. I can get that.
Shadow sighed out with relief. He wanted to try the coffee again. He had some on the Ark before, and would love to taste it again. And he wouldn't mind some energy after that tossing and turning night.
I'll take the chamomile tea then.
Knuckles piped up.
And you two?
The woman looked at both Tails and Sonic.
I'll take the strawberry milkshake.
Sonic leaned against his chair.
I'll take the berry smoothie, please.
Tails smiled at her and she wrote down what they wanted on the notepad and made her way back to the counter. Shadow then kicked Sonic's shin and he fell off his chair from the sudden pain his shin got.
Ow, Shadow, what the heck?
Sonic growled, pulling himself up.
Metal rims for shoes, remember?
Putting me on the spot. Was it sore? Good.
He growled back. He leaned against his chair more and kept his arms crossed. Knuckles shook his head, but that made him wonder. When has Shadow had coffee?
You've had coffee before.
The echidna looked at him.
It isn't just the desire to try, but you've had it. Back on the Ark. I sometimes stole the professor's just to mess with him.
His ruby eyes lit up with some nostalgia.
Didn't want it going to waste.
Did Maria teach you that?
Sonic looked at him.
I will neither confirm or deny.
She very much did. Sonic snorted. She sounded like a riot at times. He might have gotten along with her despite being a Robotnik. He got himself back up on his chair and moved closer to Tails so he didn't get hit again.
She taught you to steal coffee?
Tails tilted his head.
No. More like when the scientist did tests on me, I was covered in wires once. I wasn't in the brightest mood that day because sometimes it was painful.
He ignored their looks.
But she would sneak into the room. I'd just see the top of her head and eyes giving me that mischievous look you'd sometimes get Hedgehog.
I'm not mischievous.
Sonic shrugged, but no one believed him by the looks of it.
Hey, I like some fun out of life. Also, thank you for confirming.
Shadow went silent for a moment and his eyes narrowed at the blue hedgehog who snickered away.
I'm sure I'd be forgiven if you mysteriously were punted through the wall.
You know, to say mysteriously makes one think they'd have something to do with it.
He responded dryly back. What is it with him and Knuckles saying that?
So she would steal you is what I gather.
The echidna chuckled lightly. Shadow also let out a small chuckle, enjoying the reminiscing of it.
Oh, they were annoyed whenever she did. It got to the point they changed the door key codes every day. Didn't work because Maria found the code regardless.
He had a small smile thinking about it.
She sounded really nice, Shadow.
Tails leaned on his elbows, always enjoying him opening up about his past, as tragic as it sounded.
Do you think she would have liked it here?
No.
Tails tilted his head at that, but Shadow kept his small smile.
She'd have loved it.
It didn't take long for their drinks to come and everyone drank up. Shadow took a sip of the drink and his ears went forward. It certainly tasted similar to the professor's, but not quite either. Regardless, he could feel the nostalgia come through. The professor sitting his cup out, and would be too busy in his work that it sometimes nearly got cold, so Shadow would simply take it and drink it down himself. The first time he did it, he remembers the professor being so confused as to why his cup was empty and the other scientists nearly got stuck in a chokehold. The second time he did it, the professor looked like he was about to go stir crazy as to why 2 cups seemed to have vanished and everyone kept denying it was them. He eventually got caught around the 6th cup and the professor couldn't believe it. He remembers the shout of frustration that echoed through the hallway of the Ark, and he and Maria were on the floor. Knuckles sipped his tea and sighed out with content, enjoying the herbal taste. This was the closest thing to the Mystic Ruins tea, that and peppermint. He was also content with how things felt around them. Humans said hello and waved at them. Others left them alone and respected the privacy. It felt good to go out more, get shadow mingling with people and experience more things outside.
Oh yeah?
Sonic looked at the black sapient with a challenge in his eye. Shadow paused in the middle of sipping his beverage to wonder why he was getting such a look.
Me and you? Pokemon battle.
Don't you need 2 switches for that?
Shadow blinked.
Or did you mean the card game?
Knuckles looked at the blue hedgehog and Shadow thought he misheard that. They have a card game too?
I borrowed Wade's Switch. We're gonna battle with Sword.
Sonic grinned.
You are going down.
Tails shook his head.
Sonic, Shadow hasn't played that generation. He played Arceus.
Wade completed the game and has a full dex on it?
Sonic waved him off. He'll let Shadow build his team, but he's going to have a full-on Pokemon battle with him.
Legendaries are off the table then.
Tails spoke up and Sonic glared.
I'm serious. If you want, just use one.
Legendary holder not allowed more than 1.
Knuckles smirked at the offended expression on his face.
However will our brother cope?
Sarcasm doesn't suit you, Red.
Sonic dryly shot back, causing the echidna to laugh. Shadow continued to sip his drink, ignoring the blue hedgehog who was trying to say he doesn't use legendaries all that much, with Tails shooting him a look that says, I don't believe you. Shadow almost finished his coffee when Sonic suddenly let out a large gasp. Then he stood up suddenly and the ebony hedgehog paused again, staring at him and wondering what was wrong now.
Guys,
Sonic had horror in his voice, as if he realized something which gained the other two's attention.
this weekend?
All three watched and waited for him to continue.
It's Father's Day.
He exclaimed, outing his hands on his head. June seemed to be throwing all sorts of obstacles at them. Tails blinked at his blue brother.
You just now realized that?
He muttered.
I thought we were doing more Father's Day gift hunting tomorrow, as an extra last-minute check. I already ordered something online.
How are you so prepared?
Sonic said, surprised in tone at his brother, and the echidna sighed. So not only do they have Shadow's birthday on the 19th, Sonic's on the 23rd, but somehow the blue hedgehog had forgotten this weekend would be Father's Day. To be honest, with everything going on, it slipped his mind. Now he's going to be more chaotic in trying to find another good gift.
After the chaos that was May, I decided to plan ahead.
Tails looked at his brother. When Shadow first joined, they did sorta celebrate Mother's Day, but unfortunately not the way they wanted. It wasn't Shadow's fault by any means. Even Maddie had forgotten about Mother's Day, because it was that Sunday that Shadow had his first severe nightmare. They gave her the gifts later once they realized and made it back home from the fishing trip. She loved that trip, though she still talks about it. So while they didn't really get to do breakfast for her or anything, she still had a good day. And it sounds like Sonic was about to forget Father's Day as well.
Okay, how about we do a day for Mom before or after Father's Day? Make it a day of spoiling since we didn't get to do much for her.
Sonic suggested. It wasn't a bad idea to do that.
But seriously, why is it suddenly Father's Day?
Has the grenade that is called Shadow really messed up his sense of time?
We could find something, brother. Something donut-themed to match his sweater.
Knuckles piped up. It was an idea at least, but Shadow looked confused.
Father's Day?
He muttered quietly. He vaguely remembers the professor getting items from his sons on a holiday. Even Maria would send something down to her father on it as well. Is this what they are referring to?
Okay, so let's take tomorrow as our Father's Day gift hunt trip. Also get a little extra for Mom.
Sonic nodded.
Shadow, you are joining us.
He held the tone of no negotiation for whatever reason.
I'm what?
And with that, the group split up. Sonic and Knuckles mentioned about going to go get more rings, and it was up to Tails to keep Shadow distracted because it wasn't just rings that they were going for, Mobius gloves, and get more than one pair. Tails and Knuckles did have a surprise for them though. After all was said and done, they would be going to a Mobius spot, Frog Forest, for some exploration. Knuckles left the kit with a ring. So he and Shadow walked around the town, with Tails pointing out what each store they walked by has inside it. And obviously they attracted attention because it was not often in the time since Green Hills found out about Shadow that they saw him in the town itself. It was a curious sight, but it was also a normal one because the humans had grown used to the other three. What's one more anyway? Shadow was appreciating the breeze because his black fur was soaking up the sun more than he cared to admit. He heard Maddie say something about how the color black can attract the sun. He isn't quite sure how the sun can find him attractive though. It isn't conscious as far as he is aware. But then again, Gerald mentioned about something similar. A black object absorbs all wavelengths of light and converts them into heat. Is that what Maddie meant? Probably. He spent too much time with Sonic, that or GUN has jumbled his brain.
So how did we not go join them? Is the market in a Mobian city?
Shadow followed the kit to wherever they were going in the town.
In case we all get separated, you could say he's training Sonic to lessen his ball of excitement.
Tails fixed the straps on his backpack as they walked.
Exposure. Yeah, that's it.
Shadow could see that. Sonic couldn't sit still for long, especially when he's overly excited. Knuckles would worry that he could speed off somewhere and having to chase him down, and they could all get lost in trying to find each other. Plus, after that temple mishap, the echidna must be on a trial run. He could see the reasoning, but maybe he and Knuckles could go to one of those markets by themselves one time just so he can experience it. Then a thought crossed his mind that was bothering him for some time, and he looked at the fox, hesitating for a moment if he should mention what's been in his thoughts.
Tails?
He muttered quietly as they walked past some humans who curiously looked down at them.
This may be late, but I don't know what to give that blue beehive for his birthday.
Tails paused and gave Shadow a quizzical look. He wants to get Sonic something? Well, that does make sense since everyone else would be too. Maybe he didn't want to be the odd one out who hadn't, but obviously Shadow hasn't been around enough to actually get something, nor does he have currency in either human or Mobian. As far as he was aware though, their parents were gonna take Shadow around the town to get him something to give to Sonic. They wanted it to be an item he chose, but could they already bought him something to give? He'll have to ask.
Sonic isn't picky, Shadow. What were you thinking?
Tails waited at a stop sign and waited for it to turn green to walk on over to the other side.
I don't know. I don't know enough games to get him one.
Nor do you have the money for how much they cost.
Tails watched the light still. Shadow stiffened and looked at the yellow fox.
Are they expensive?
Roughly $60 to $70 for one, depending on what you get from a franchise.
Tails snorted at Shadow's horrified look. So he understands the concept of money, it looks like.
For a little cartridge?
Well, there goes his idea for that. That's stupidly expensive, but he does suppose one could have hours and hours of playability. As far as he was aware, the professor did mention about funding some time ago that he could remember, but he doesn't know enough how much of a difference it's been. Could things really change that much in the years he's lost them? Maybe.
Like I said, depends if you get it from new to secondhand. Secondhand is cheaper because they've been used before, but that's still easily between $20 to $30. Nintendo stuff is rarely that price though.
The light turned green indicating they could walk, so he stepped forward and Shadow continued to follow.
What doesn't he have that I can hopefully obtain?
He muttered out, rubbing his temple. He's only ever made stuff he did back on the Ark when he was bored at times, but he's quite sure Sonic isn't a technology hedgehog. That's more the fox's thing. Tails finds the irony. Here he is wondering what to get the blue blur, struggling to do so whereas everyone is doing the exact same thing over him.
Don't stress, Shadow. Here we can try find something that sticks out to you that shouts Sonic.
Tails could see him numbly nod.
I am surprised you want to give him something though.
Isn't that what someone does for a birthday?
He scrunched his nose, confusion in his eyes. Sure, he doesn't have any currency in his name, but he was going to ask either Knuckles or the two humans about it. And maybe do something in exchange for it. Or maybe he can make something just like he's doing for Maria.
Yeah, but you are still new to the world around you. No one would expect you to do it, that's all I mean. Sonic certainly doesn't.
They both made it to the library building itself. That doesn't make him feel any better. Shadow's ruby eyes saw the book sign of the library. Green Hills Library Original.
You could dance.
No.
He growled out, causing Tails to laugh. The yellow fox pushed the door open to show the inside of the local library. It was filled with books with different genres at their own section. Since Green Hills wasn't a massive town, it was just big enough to have stuff you didn't have to travel hours to go to and get something. The library was modest in size, but it was still big to the two sapients. And they were humans all around them, some on the computers, others reading at desks or writing at tables. The Ark had a library on it. It was a lot bigger than this, but not as colorful. The place had that old-time look to it. Cream-colored paint and fake potted plants littered the place to give it more life. They were greeted by two of the humans behind the counter that were sorting books out, and Shadow simply waved in greeting back. Another point for Tails to tell their parents.
Okay, so
Tails took Shadow to the fantasy book section.
this is fantasy stories? Or we can look at whatever manga they have available.
Manga?
Shadow tilted his head. That's not something he's heard before. Is it a new book name? Oh, he doesn't know about manga either? That's right, he wouldn't. Tails gave him a sheepish smile.
It's like comic books, you know, the type Sonic has? Only it's the Japanese equivalent. Not filled with superheroes the same way, but you know what, this way.
Tails grabbed his arm and dragged him to the manga section that they had on hand to look for something that could possibly be used in an example. Then he found one that could work.
Here's one.
He lifted out a manga of a book. He opened a few pages to show him, and Shadow blinked at the gray-colored artwork before him. It looked intriguing. Tails could see the curiosity in his gaze as those ruby-red eyes examined the pages.
This is Fruits Basket. I actually have the DVD of the old anime.
What's it about?
He murmured, wondering if it was done in pencil or some type of ink he isn't aware of. How isn't it coming off the page? His finger went down it and he couldn't feel the grit of the drawing. It felt smooth. Does that mean it was copied onto this book? It isn't the original drawing?
It's about a curse curse that affects 13 somas, the animals of the zodiac.
The Chinese zodiac.
Shadow looked at the fox. A curse, huh? Consider him sold in wanting to know more.
How many books does this one have?
Volumes. I think this one has 23.
Tails turned the cover and saw it was number 2. Maybe he could ask to get the first volume and so Shadow could read it. Though he isn't surprised he knows about the zodiacs.
I have the DVD series anyway. We could give that a watch first before you read this series. I get this for you, but this is volume 2. It's better to start with 1 or you won't get the plot.
On the back burner for now then. Shadow hummed and braved a few steps away from Tails, taking in the sights before him. So many books to choose and look at.
Does Sonic read any of this?
Not really all that much. He likes superhero comics mostly.
Tails shrugged. He does read manga at times, but he's mostly a superhero comic guy. Shadow and Tails spent a good 30 minutes in the library, going back and forth at the different sections and genres of bookshelves. Tails noted he found a book series that he could potentially be interested in, and made a mental note of it for whenever they decide to check it out. Then a human walked past them and Shadow blinked in confusion, and Tails felt him tap his arm to get his attention.
Humans have colors like ours as well.
He muttered confusedly. Tails blinked, not understanding what he meant, and the black sapient pointed at a female human with bright green hair. But the fox still isn't quite sure on what he means.
Humans, they don't just have what Tom and Maddie have for colored hair. I wasn't aware they also could come in green.
No.
Tails giggled out some, amused by his curiosity.
She dyed her hair, Shadow. That's not her natural color. Like how I was born yellow, Sonic was born blue, and Knuckles red, and you black. She dyed it to look like that.
She painted over her own hair? One could do that.
Why would she do that?
His ruby eyes gazed at that green hair color. It was quite bright in his opinion. But they are in a town called Green Hills. Maybe she wanted to represent her town in some way.
Some people like to stand out. Others like changing their hair color to something they personally like. It involves chemicals and stuff. I can't say I like the smell of it. Mom went to the hairdresser's once and I couldn't wait to get out of there. Too much of it, in my opinion.
It's incredible how much he's still learning about stuff. Maria and the professor never mentioned this, or perhaps they simply didn't partake in it.
Let me check out these books.
He held up a few that sparked some interest from both him and Shadow.
Then there's a place we gotta go to.
A place?
He followed the fox who held out the books to be scanned and stamped of when they should be returned.
Oh, hey there, Tails.
The man waved at the fox and took the books into his hands.
Haven't seen you as often of late. Been busy.
Yep.
Tails rubbed his neck.
But I wanted to show Shadow this place, since he's living with us.
He gestured to the black sapient who stiffened from the attention he was putting on him. But he did look at the human who smiled at the newest resident. He was an average-looking human like all the others that didn't have different colored hair. He was blonde, brown-eyed, and had a beard, but it wasn't bushy, kinda like Wade's, more of a stub.
Shadow, this is Alex Clark. He's one of the ones who kinda run the library.
Chris mentioned he met you sometime back at the diner. Nice to meet you, Shadow. Is Green Hills treating you well?
Tails wasn't expecting anything from the black sapient. He already did his talk with one of the humans today, so that's all he could ask. He really just wanted him to get comfortable with the idea not everyone is out to get him, even if he understands.
Yes.
He muttered quietly, his ears tilted back uncomfortably, but he surprised the fox who stared wide-eyed at him.
Tom and Maddie did say it's an understanding place.
Alex chuckled at his hesitation. He seemed to be a lot quieter than Sonic. It was interesting to see such a personality difference. At least he knows how that not all hedgehogs are as hyper as he could be.
Well, Tom and Maddie aren't wrong. You do get the odd people who don't really talk all that much here, but I'd say as a community we are quite warm when it comes to people. I moved here years ago, and boy, I wouldn't go back to my own city.
Shadow looked at the human with a questioning look and Alex continued.
I used to be a city boy, all loud, people honking and not really take the time to talk to each other, not like here. I enjoy the quiet it offers, besides aliens of course. Always a highlight.
Alex stamped the books that they were checking out for the day.
That doesn't sound pleasant. Why would people be like that?
The black sapient muttered, trying to solve the puzzle. He knows humans can be cruel, he's experienced it. But they can do it to each other just the same. Tails was cheering inside, ecstatic that he was willingly partaking in a conversation with a stranger. He needs to tell his brothers this and his parents, cause wow, what a step.
Life. Some people just are like that in personality. City folk are nice, but not quite like village people. Village people can have a sense of community, but not every place is like this either.
Alex handed Tails the books and the kit thanked him.
Anyway, I hope you continue to enjoy life here, Shadow. I hope to see you around more. Would you like a library card?
I'm gonna ask Mom and Dad about that.
Tails looked at the man, hoping he wouldn't go through with it, because they'd have to register Shadow into the system, and that might alert you. And Tails does think his parents are coming up an alias though.
I'm gonna ask Mom and Dad about that. 'Cause he's still new, we aren't sure, but he can come check out books with me.
Oh well, that sounds fine.
Alex looked at the black sapient again.
So Shadow, it was nice to meet you. But I suppose I do have one question. Do you like it here?
Shadow pursed his lip and thought, like it? He does suppose in a sense he does like it. And it's not just the location, the sapients have made him appreciate it. No, not just them. Tom, Maddie, and Wade have too.
Yes,
He muttered.
I suppose I do. Now where are we?
Shadow looked around at a large forest. Trees so tall, the ones back at Green Hills pale in comparison, some were thick. And those were some big mushrooms. Tails used a warp ring to take him to a location in Mobius. He saw rock formations with square shapes engraved in its rock, dark green and brown color. This is fascinating to him. And what were those giant things sticking out of the ground? He could see a large pond further ahead with lily pads and other flowery objects in its waters.
Frog Forest. One of the biggest splendors of Mobius.
Tails hummed, pulling out a giant leaf from the ground. It was shaped like a heart.
We'll need this eventually.
Why would they need that?
Oh!
They both heard a familiar voice, and Shadow gazed to the side to see a blue hedgehog zip on over.
Knuckles did say we'd be meeting here.
Where is he?
Tails blinked, seeing no echidna in sight.
I don't know, actually.
Sonic put his arms behind his head. He might have blurred away to have a look around the place. This place was massive and a lot of greenery. It also had large mountain-like cliffs that you could see so far out, large tree-colored shapes he's never seen before, and giant stone monuments of some kind, with vines going all around it that you could rail down against. Mobius and its wonders surprised the blue hedgehog.
You lost Knuckles?
Shadow's brow furrowed. How could he just go on and leave the echidna? Knuckles is likely out of breath just trying to catch up.
I also assume you both got what you needed?
Yup. Got more warp rings. Knuckles knows a guy.
He said it in a way that he has a dealer.
But this place is massive. Like, wow. I feel like an ant in comparison.
Tails snorted. If that's how he feels now, what's he gonna be like seeing the frogs of this forest? He has his phone out at the ready to capture both his and Shadow's expression, because it's gonna be gold.
Let's go find him.
He waved his energy tracker. Luckily he brought it in case it should pick up Knuckles. But it messed up again and he frowned. That's the second time that's it static itself out, like it can't cope with the energy reading, but it still could pick up the red sapient. It was just a lot more glitchy. He really needs to open this thing and have a look at it. Tails took the lead down the grassy path, and Shadow noticed some areas also had that square-colored shapes in the grass, just like it did with the stone before. Is there a reason for that? Or is it just a natural phenomenon in Mobius? He also spotted the giant vines above them and around some of the trees. They looked quite sturdy, not as breakable. The colored mushrooms that towered over them had a lot of moss. He also noticed a lack of ground animals here. Why was it called Frog Forest exactly? Shadow did see a few of those birds, the flickies, fly about. The group walked on for several minutes, just taking in the sights before them. While Tails was busy using his tracker to point him in the right direction, but it seemed to be glitching out, and he could see he was getting irritated. The group eventually got close to an open pond with closed lily pads, and a large mushroom-like tree that was reaching up into the clouds. Sonic whistled. Yeah, this place would be fun to jump from that height onto a vine rail. Wonder if he could do that. Knuckles was leaning against one of the trees, using it as shade, and waved at them.
You mustn't run, Hedgehog. You'd scare the frogs.
Sonic blinked.
What frogs? Knuckles I've ran all over, and I've yet to see an animal or frog.
But Knuckles had a gleam in his purple eyes, like he knows something they don't. Tails knew that look, so he quickly stepped aside, and that caught both the hedgehog's attention. Shadow's ears twitched trying to find the strange sounds that were around them, but he can't exactly see anything. The echidna slammed his fist into the tree he was under, and it shook the tree. What was he doing? A massive light green with a yellow striped frog landed in front of them, causing the ground to shake beneath them, and took them off balance. Both of their faces went slack-jawed for a few seconds as this hulking giant frog stared down at them, and let out a croak of displeasure at being disturbed. Tails quickly took a picture of their faces and snickered away at the comical expression, and Knuckles grinned with mischief.
What am I looking at?
Shadow whispered, his eyes wide at what he was seeing. This can't be a frog. He's seen studies of frogs on the Ark, and none was as big as this thing. It has to be a mutation of some kind. Sonic couldn't believe it either. This was a Mobian frog? Holy crap. What the heck is in this forest that's feeding this thing to be that size? Sonic couldn't understand what he was seeing. He couldn't think of a quip or much else because he's taken aback by how freakishly huge this thing is.
You look like haven't seen a giant frog before.
Knuckles mocked, and Sonic leaned to look past the frog.
What makes you think I'd ever see this?
He gestured to the frog, who noticed the movement. Tails knew what Knuckles was doing. He just used Sonic to make movement, and he snickered away for what is about to happen. He held the makeshift umbrella leaf over his head, preparing for what is about to come.
Shouldn't have done that, Hedgehog. I told you, you'd scare the frog.
Knuckles kept himself leaning against the tree.
What?
Sonic couldn't finish that sentence because the frog let another large croak and did a few jumps that shook the ground underneath the both of them again, and the next thing they know, the frog leaped high into the air over them, and then both got battered with a heavy dose of rain. They were drenched in seconds. Shadow blinked as his fur became extremely soaked. His quills even sagged down from how heavy it was, and Sonic let out a yelp. His quills were much the same. Both felt the batter of rain hitting them. Shadow felt dumbfounded. That was far too sudden for a weather change. It was pure sunny a moment ago, but now? It was like a rain hurricane came through and swept them up. Knuckles laughed boisterously at the both of them. Sonic was in some comical position, like he couldn't understand why he's so wet. Tails chuckled away as well. Who needs a shower when you just were given one by the frogs?
These frogs can summon rain.
Tails grinned at the bewildered expression from both of them.
I'm not making it up. They can summon rain, as you've just seen.
He pig-like snorted at the unimpressed face he was getting off Sonic. That's when Sonic clicked. Knuckles just pulled a fast one on them.
You knucklehead?
Sonic yelled out, and Blue blurred to tackle his brother, but the echidna simply sidestepped, and he went headfirst into the tree, causing him to laugh even more, annoying Sonic further. He swore he just saw stars in his vision from that face implant.
Rain doesn't harm anyone, brother.
The echidna dodged another swipe and ran out into the rain. It was beginning to lessen at least. Rain from the frogs don't last too long. It's just when they initially summon it, it's heavy. Sonic growled with displeasure and shouted at his brother, both in a chase game of Dodge the Blue Hedgehog. Shadow shook his head and tried shaking the worst of the wetness off. Didn't do him any good right enough because it was still raining, just not as hard as the first few minutes.
Now that explains why you had that leaf.
Shadow grumbled, crossing his arms at the kit, who grinned at him.
Didn't feel like warning me?
I did. I said we'd need this. Nothing wrong with some fun, though. You got to experience something new.
Tails responded back. Well, he has a point.
How are you finding it anyway? Rain doesn't seem to bother you like Sonic.
He motioned to the two brothers in their game still.
Rain is harmless, as Knuckles said.
Shadow gazed at the sky, watching the rain lighten up further. He had a longing in those red eyes that Tails could see.
I suppose I can't describe it.
He swallowed some.
Do you ever get like that?
Tails gave him a small smile and nodded.
Yes, Shadow, I do. So I understand.
How must it be to someone like Shadow? All of this, all the splendors of not only Mobius but Green Hills. The sanctuary they seem to offer him. He is glad they could be like that for him. He knows how it feels when it first met Sonic. Someone who didn't care about his two tails and didn't bully him from the get-go. It meant a lot. So maybe they are like that for Shadow in some way.
Maria would talk about it, what she remembered.
Tails looked at the black sapient.
She.
He went quiet. It's still hard, it seems, to talk about her sometimes, but he still enjoys listening to someone who influenced Shadow greatly. Even if she was gone now, she left a big impact. He loved her just like how Tails loves Sonic and Knuckles. It's a tight bond.
It's okay.
Tails' two tails flickered.
I get that too. I'm sure she would have enjoyed this as well.
Shadow nodded some and went quiet again. Tails looked around to see what he could bring back into the conversation.
Oh, look!
The fox pointed to a section further back, where one of the giant stems that were closed opened up to reveal a type of lily pad that could be used as a platform for something.
Frog rains can open up sections of this forest that's not accessible otherwise. Granted, you need a frog, but there's plenty of them. Sonic just didn't look hard enough.
What do you mean I didn't look hard enough?
Sonic called out, stopping from chasing the echidna to glare at the youngest.
How do you miss a giant frog that could eat you?
You did.
Tails bit back at his older brother. Knuckles chuckled away still, getting a growl off the blue hedgehog. Mobius was certainly one big mystery to the black sapient. Never thought he would experience seeing a frog that was roughly bigger than 3 cars stacked together, maybe bigger. And they can summon rain? What a wondrous planet. He put his hands on his hips as Sonic began to bicker and curse the echidna's name for getting him so wet. He did not enjoy the rain, or rather how heavy it came down in a fast period of time. Tom and Maddie would have fainted at the sight of that, no doubt. But then Shadow felt something make his quills flick, like something landed at the back of them and tried gnawing at one of his quills, and his eyes widened. Something is moving on his quills, and he tensed. Was it some type of small predator? But it didn't feel like it had teeth. His fingers sparked with golden red and he was about to croak. The sound made him pause. What? Even the sapients paused to look at what was going on. Knuckles blinked and his mouth opened at what he was witnessing. Shadow quickly put his hand behind his quills and felt something slimy, and he cringed and squeezed it to get a grip and pulled out It was a small frog, one that's still somewhat bigger than frogs back on Earth but a more manageable size, and he stared at the frog that croaked at displeasure for being manhandled. It was green in color like the other frog, but with an orange stripe down its head and between its eyes, as well as markings on its back legs matching the color. He stared at it and it stared back. Then it stuck its tongue out, hitting him between the eyes, and he let out a startled sound. He dropped the frog, but it used that momentum to jump over him and started trying to munch on his quills again. What is wrong with this frog? Sonic cackled at what he was seeing. A frog that's small compared to Shadow, trying to eat his quills for whatever reason. Even Knuckles looked perplexed by its behavior. Tails seemed taken aback as well.
Do Mobian frogs like to try to eat people?
Shadow reached back up, grabbing at it, but its mouth clung onto his ear, sending a shiver of disgust down his spine.
Sonic, tip it.
No, that's unusual.
Knuckles tilted his head, watching the spectacle as Shadow struggled to get the little frog off his head. It certainly wasn't having it. What is it about Shadow that it wants to munch on him? Tails wondered if the frog somehow was deranged. It was definitely wanting to swallow one of Shadow's quills, but how can it? Shadow is a lot bigger than it. It doesn't even reach the quills in wide length. He watched as Shadow got real irritated. The frog was obviously slimly, so it wasn't easy to grab. He hissed out,
Will you just, not the ear again? What is it with you?
He's cursing an animal frog. What a world. Sonic had a gleeful expression. Shadow finally got a decent grip on it and tossed it high into air. It was sent flying towards the pond further back and landed with a big sounding plop. He yeeted the thing and Sonic whistled, obviously found the whole thing comical.
Nice toss, Shads, but what did you do for a frog to want to munch you?
He laughed more as the black sapient gave him a deadpan expression. Now that Tails thinks about it, he's heard rumors of a problematic frog from his village. It would try swallow anything. It would also try go for things with chaos energy, and a big purple cat wouldn't be far behind it. Is it the same frog? How did it end up out here? And why? Oh, the kid blinked, his blue eyes gazing over at the scowling face of the black sapient. Shadow had a lot of chaos energy, so much so it just oozed out him invisibly. His tracker indicated only a little bit of how much he actually may have. The frog was trying to eat him because of the chaos energy he possessed. Anytime he's near the energy tracker, the machine itself glitches out, like it can't fully process his energy. It did it back at the temple in the start of here. It can't be simple coincidences. The restraints Knuckles destroyed. He kept one to examine and he didn't tell them. What he found was they were made to drain chaos energy. How did humans figure out how to do that? He just didn't understand why at the time compared to now. It siphoned the hedgehog like a parasite. He must have been so unwell. Does Ji-Wen have all of it cataloged? Maybe he could get that information once he hacks the system. Make that another thing to find.
I can't wait to tell Mom and Dad about Shadow being attacked by a frog.
Shut it.
Shadow growled out in warning.
Nah, I don't think I will.
Sonic let out a high-pitched scream as Shadow bulldozed into him at an alarming speed. Knuckles chortled at the scream, fully enjoying the antics. While Sonic was asking for it, unfortunately, Tails shook his head and looked up the sky, seeing the rain finally go off. A massive thump happened near Shadow and Sonic again. The fox shot his head to the side to see another giant forest frog croak at them. Did Shadow maybe offend it by tossing that smaller one? He held his makeshift umbrella leaf as the new frog itself just sent another downpour of rain upon them all. Shadow and Sonic shouting out from displeasure, and Knuckles didn't seem fazed in the slightest. The yellow kit looked at the pond furthest away from them to see a purple hulking back of a cat using a fishing pole to fish in its water. There's the cat that accompanies the frog. So it is the same small frog that's problematic. Good to know. Tom and Maddie found the house to be empty and they both were quite surprised. They thought the boys would be home by now, unless the day trip Sonic and Knuckles told them they had planned was taking longer than they thought. It was so strange coming home to a quiet house. Sure, Ozzy was in, but they were used to some teenage antics, shouting at the television or a game. It honestly felt like before they adopted Sonic. A quietness they didn't think they could adjust to anymore. Tom looked at his phone, scrolling online to find Shadow a gift, one he would appreciate it. It can't be the bed because they already told him about that. If they had known it was birthday, then that would have been his gift, but alas, he waited until a week before Sonic's and himself. That kid, honestly. And what age could they make Shadow? 15? Or should they make him 16 like Knuckles? And what cake are they going to get? Absolutely tiring stuff being a parent. It is not for the weak-hearted, especially with 4 superpowered kids that could take out neighborhoods and cause catastrophic events. Sonic with his super speed, Hurricane, Knuckles with his insane strength make the earth shake, Tails with his intelligence and could build a giant destroying robot, no doubt, and Shadow? He looked to be a mix of Sonic and Knuckles. Is there a parenting book on Mobius they could get?
Well, sounds like their trip is overtime. Still, I appreciate them doing this. It's good for them and Shadow. See more outside here.
Maddie looked around the house. It certainly felt strange coming home and not seeing any of them. But sounding like a broken record, they have amazing kids.
Think one day Shadow could see more outside without the fear?
Tom said with some hope in his tone. The Mobius trips would give them the freedom about not worrying with Ji-Wen prowling about. He would love it for him. Be a normal hedgehog like Sonic. Even if he was man-made, he deserves a life.
I worry Sonic might be an influence on him, though.
He chuckled.
Maybe, but Knuckles is there to balance it in Tails' logic. I wouldn't worry too much with that.
She has a point there. Only one issue, Knuckles sometimes was talked into stuff.
Do you think she won't let JoJo come?
Maddie muttered, gaining his attention, and Tom pursed his lip. It's not like him to lose his temper, but by God did he when Rachel kept pushing his buttons. Rachel has gotten better with how she's treated him and the kids, but that doesn't mean she's all the way there yet.
I hope she does.
Tom sighed out.
Maddie, I'm sorry for the way I handled that, but I can't let Randall come, not until I'm sure.
It's not the man, it's his profession. Not near their newest son. And she needs to understand that. Rachel has to, but how do you explain over the phone? You don't. Because their lines might be bugged for security purposes.
Shadow shouldn't have to be put in a position like that.
Maddie wrapped her arms around him, understanding his grief because she feels it too. It would be unjust and unfair to expect Shadow to, if he knew Randall was an agent. But that could be so dangerous at the same time. It wasn't fair on Shadow, but it wasn't fair on Randall in case he gets suddenly attacked, because they have no guarantee either way. And it's hard because Tom loves JoJo. Rachel has never been good to her husband, and she has made leaps and bounds in trying to be better with him, but that might be going backwards again. Sonic mentioned something about talking to her in person, but how can they do that exactly?
I know, and I wish we could let bygones be bygones, but that's not fair on him either, to just accept a GUN agent. Oh, Tom, what are we gonna do?
She whispered and pressed her head against his own at the side. Things were so confusing to the pair. And it's only gonna get harder as time goes on.
We need to tell him Maddie.
Tom rubbed her hand and she stiffened against him.
We need to tell him how we know about GUN. I don't think he's realized that we have had some experience with them.
Tom had noticed that maybe he thinks they've heard in some form as Earth's protectors, but not really taking it in that sense of understanding, that sense of knowing. He didn't pick up the body language when he first uttered that name to Tom.
Tom!
She looked at him in bewilderment.
That might cause him to run.
But we always believed in communicating as much as we can. How can Shadow trust us if we don't tell him stuff?
He murmured tiredly.
What if one day he asks the boys, how do we seem to know those people, and he finds out what happened?
But that is the thing, will Shadow bolt or care? Would he appreciate the honesty? Or would that cause him to worry even further that they could potentially get him again? Ever since he's dropped into their lives, he feels like he's aged 10 years from all the stuff that's happened. Even Maddie was beginning to feel like that, and that was saying a lot considering what Sonic put them through a few times. Maddie could see his point. Shadow was opening up bit by bit. He was getting comfortable with them. By the time June is over, he'd have been with them for 2 months. He was making great strides and they were proud from the knowledge they know now why he looked so much in despair when they first met. He thought he was in the clutches of awful humans, and he's struggling to let people in so he doesn't get hurt. So he doesn't lose what he once had all over again. But he's trying, as her oldest says. He's still seeking a connection. His heart wants it despite the fight back.
I just don't want him to run, Tom.
She sighed. What is the best course of action?
I know. I certainly don't want him to either.
But their couch began to shake, and the side tables at the couch, and they paused. The pictures on the wall even shook. Was it an earthquake? A large portal opened up and suddenly both were drenched by a massive downpour thrown by the wind coming from the warp ring portal, and both let out a startled sound as they were suddenly soaked by it. Then came out a massive yellowish peach colored like round fruit rolling into the floor with a big thump, and both stared at it, completely taken back and not at all sure what they were witnessing. Then came out the ones responsible. Tails flew out of the portal, his 2 tails spinning, and he was in the air with Sonic and Shadow jumping through. Tom had to catch Sonic because he was flying out the portal and he grunted out from the force.
Oof, Sonic.
Knuckles skidded out the portal next with something trying to come through. It was a huge dark frog. Maddie screamed.
What is that?
Shadow quickly got up and pushed the frog with Knuckles back in the warp ring itself. Both managed to shove it hard enough it obviously went backwards and the warp ring finally closed. Both sighed out with relief and Shadow just flopped onto the other chair, not at all caring he was drenched.
An unhappy demon frog.
Maddie and Tom shot a look of disbelief at Shadow. No, frogs are not that big. Knuckles shot his head around to the blue hedgehog with a steaming look.
I told you not to go to near Lost Jungle. That section holds those type of frogs.
You didn't say anything about bad frogs.
Sonic exclaimed, still in his father's arms.
I did. But it seems listening is foreign to you. Do you have the concept of danger, Hedgehog? Your survival skills are laughable.
Knuckles growled out and Tails landed on the ground, not at all enjoying being so drenched himself.
First it's the brick in the temple, now it is this.
He motioned to the space the warp ring once was.
Oh, can it, Knucklehead?
Sonic shot back. He got himself upright but noticed the place was covered in watery puddles. Even his parents seemed wet.
Dad, Mom, why are you wet? I mean, I know why we are.
Sonic, give me one reason not to ground you.
Tom glared at his son that made him zip his lip quite quickly, his eyes wide as if he just realized it was them that just soaked both of them, and the area around. Whoops.
I mean, we're all safe and we had fun?
He sheepishly smiled at them and shrugged with shoulders in a way like, I am adorable, don't do this to him. Their dad and mom did not look all that impressed.
You call that fun?
Maddie crossed her arms at her blue child.
And why is there some giant fruit in our living room now?
Oh, hey, it came through with us. Should totally eat it.
Sonic grinned and sat up straighter in his dad's arms. Tom just felt completely taken back at this. Does he miss the quiet times? Right now, absolutely. Shadow pinched the bridge of his nose. Not at all impressed what they just had to go through, yet he's treating it like a normal occurrence. Maybe it is for this blue fur ball, but the Black Sapient is done with adventure for today. He doesn't even have an appetite because of that mishap.
Are you sure that was a frog?
Maddie really hoped Mobian frogs aren't actually that big.
Frogs aren't the size of, or even bigger than cars, actually.
Frog Forest is home to many frogs, Mother, and they do get that big.
Knuckles said as if it's normal. Well, for him it likely was.
Oh boy, I'd hate that in the clinic.
She winced.
Is everything just bigger on your planet?
Not always. Some of the planet zones can be different. So Mobius isn't always the biggest, and I've gone to a great many of them.
Quite sure of that, Cranberry.
Wait, you said Frog Forest, but that one came from a jungle?
Tom pointed out.
They aren't far from another. Lost Jungle also houses frogs that summon rain, only it can damage.
What do you mean?
Maddie couldn't believe what she was hearing.
Frogs? Summon rain?
Why are you finding that so hard to believe?
Tails shook the water off himself.
When we exist?
Tom rubbed his face.
Buddy, can you summon rain at will? Sorry if I can't wrap my mind around that.
The hedgehog was lucky. Lost Jungle houses a danger, a giant alligator supposedly.
He saw the horrified expression on Tom and Maddie. He hopes they don't ban the trips now. Maybe he spent too much time with Sonic.
Oh, you think?
Sonic exclaimed.
Wait! I just spoiled a section of the movie to Shadow? No!
Tails shook his head. That's his take, huh?
You still interested in watching it?
Sonic asked the Black Sapient.
I wouldn't be opposed.
Then let's pretend you never saw that.
Sonic gave him the thumbs up.
I wish I could pretend this didn't happen.
Maddie sighed out. The fox gazed around at how wet the living room was now, even with all of them not helping by dripping in it either.
I think we better get dry first.
Where the heck am I supposed to put this fruit?
Tom motioned to the huge fruit that's now in the living room where their coffee table used to be. Feels strange not having it, so after Shadow's birthday, he and Maddie will get a new one. Strange to miss a coffee table.
We could eat it for dessert? Nox, would a Mobian fruit be dangerous to humans?
Sonic asked his older brother, who blinked with confusion.
I am not sure.
You know, they aren't taking the risk. Tom sighed out as Maddie got up to get the hairdryer for the boys.
You four, come with me now, Tom. Can you get started on drying the floor?
She motioned for them to go follow. All of them followed her and Tom got to start drying the living room. It took about 20 minutes to get the floor dry, with Tom using a mop to soak up the water and spare towels that they have. The Sapients remained taking turns using the hairdryer to get the drench feeling off their fur. And Knuckles ended up taking the fruit up the attic just to have for later. Ozzy was definitely wanting a bite of it, but he had to get chased off. Tom and Maddie also freshened up and changed out of their wet clothes. About an hour later, dinner was finally being made. Maddie started cooking. It was potatoes and chicken slices. Tom sighed out, rubbing his back from the workout of trying to dry the living room and the couch. That one's gonna take a while because of the material. Tails was currently using the hairdryer on it.
Mo, Dad?
Sonic closed the kitchen door quickly and both looked at him.
What's up, bud?
Tom rubbed his back still.
Is everyone dry enough?
Forget that. I need to talk to you both about the Randall situation. I've waited long enough.
Sonic muttered. Both stared at their son, wondering what he meant.
Is it because you heard the shouting, baby?
Maddie turned the heat down.
Sonic, I told you
We could tell her in person, her and Randall, why we can't have him here.
Tom sighed.
Sonic, I am not driving all the way to San Francisco.
We could use a warp ring.
Sonic saw both of them freeze, as if they didn't realize they could do that.
Seriously?
Sonic groaned.
It didn't occur to you to ask?
Both of them looked at each other sheepishly. They forgot they could just use a warp ring. That actually might solve the problem. Question is, should they have Randall come here with Rachel and make sure Shadow isn't around, or go through the portal themselves with Sonic and say why he can't be there? They just can't be caught by any bugs. You might have at the house or phone.
I'm gonna be completely honest, I forgot.
Tom blushed at the look he was getting off his son. Oh, he could just feel the judgment radiating off him. Seems to be a pattern now. First Shadow, now Sonic. Brilliant.
That's a really smart idea, Blueberry.
Maddie looked at the Blue Sapient.
You want to come with us when we go to do it?
Well, I don't know. Would it be better coming from me?
He said with hope in his tone. He really hopes Jojo can make it. His cousin holds a special place in his heart. She was the one who gave him those shoes and he just cherishes them.
She has gotten better with how she's treated us, so maybe it will?
Maddie hummed and looked at her husband.
This weekend, we'll do it because we'll have the time off.
Maddie asked him and Tom looked to be in thought. That settles it then. They'll make a trip and tell them in person. It has to be done. It's not Rachel's day, it's Sonic's. They will need to tell them about the Black Sapient in a way, and hope to God Randall doesn't tell the other agents. He might not be aware of Shadow, but unfortunately they need to inform them how jumpy he is without alerting too much information if they can help it. They only hope Shadow will forgive them for saying some of what he's told them. But they'll have to make it less detailed if Sonic is joining them.
This weekend, then.
Tom repeated, preparing himself for the woman that is Rachel, because she likely will try and end him the second she sees him.